Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the podcast, and welcome to your AEW Dynamite post show, man. And there is a lot to talk about in today's episode. We had the Young Bucks in action. We also get Mark Briscoe in action against Tommaso Ciampa in an Anything Goes match. We'll talk about that in today's episode as well. We hear from Tony Schiavone, partially. We also hear from Willow Nightingale, and there was some news that came out from Willow Nightingale last night that kind of shocked AEW and a lot of AEW fans as well, and we'll talk about that and my thoughts on that as well. We have a Jon Moxley Continental Title Eliminator matchup against Kyle O'Reilly. We'll talk about that. We have the Triangle of Madness in action with Athena taking on Thunder Rosa, Mina Shirakawa, and the Brawling Birds. And we also have an AEW World Title matchup where it is Darby Allin defending the AEW World Title against Speedball Mike Bailey, and we'll talk about that as well in today's episode, man. But let's start off tonight and kick off AEW. We have a tag team matchup, a six-man tag team match. It is the Young Bucks teaming up with Chris Jericho to take on Mark Davis, Ricochet, and Andrade. Now, I thought this was a good match. It was a back-and-forth matchup between both teams with the Bucks and Jericho keeping the pace of the match. Andrade then spending time ringside with members of the crowd. Matt Jackson hits a Northern Light suplex on Andrade in the middle of the ring. Matt then hits a double Northern Light suplex on Andrade and Ricochet in the middle of the ring as well. Jericho and Andrade both exchange. The Bucks and Jericho then hit a Hurricane Rana off the top rope on Davis, Ricochet, and Andrade. The Bucks then hit a super kick on Andrade. Jericho then hits a codebreaker on Andrade for a near fall. Bucks then hit a super kick on Davis, Ricochet, and Andrade, but Andrade gets up, hits a Three Amigos on Matt Jackson in the middle of the ring. Andrade then goes for a moonsault, but Matt had the knees up. This allowed Nick Jackson to hit a Destroyer, followed by the Bucks hitting a BTE trigger for a near fall. Ricochet then hits a jumping knee on Jericho. Ricochet and Jericho then fighting in the crowd. Jericho hits a back suplex, sending Ricochet into the Timekeeper's table. The Bucks then hit a super kick, followed by a BTE trigger for a near fall. Mark Davis has a chair, but out of nowhere, Finlay comes out of nowhere, hits Matt Jackson with a shillelagh. Davis then falls, goes for the cover, pins for the 3, and your winners of the match are Mark Davis, Ricochet, and Andrade. After the match, Tona attacks Matt. Jack Perry is here. Tona and Davis attack Perry. Hurt Syndicate are here. Hurt Syndicate attack Tona and Davis. An all-out brawl happens with Lashley hitting a spear on Tona in the middle of the ring. Some interesting stuff there between those two teams. Moving on from that, we have an Anything Goes matchup, a little bit of a grudge match here between Mark Briscoe taking on Tommaso Ciampa. I thought this was a good match. It was a back-and-forth matchup between Briscoe and Ciampa, with Briscoe keeping the pace of the match. Ciampa hits Mark with a trash can, but Mark gets up, hits Ciampa with a kendo stick. Mark then breaks a mop over the back of Ciampa. Briscoe then hits a blockbuster off the apron, taking out Ciampa, but Ciampa gets up, throws Briscoe off the top rope, through a table on the outside. Ciampa then grabs a cheese grater and attacks Briscoe with it. Briscoe now is busted wide open. Briscoe then sprays Ciampa with a fire extinguisher. This allowed Ciampa to hit Briscoe with a pan. Briscoe then hits Ciampa with a pan as well. Briscoe then staples barbed wire to the table. Briscoe then hits Ciampa with a trash can. Ciampa then gets up, throws the trash can at Briscoe. This allowed Ciampa to finish up the stapling of the barbed wire on Mark Briscoe's head. Ciampa then puts tack-covered knee pad on his knee. Ciampa then goes for a running knee, but Mark counters it, sends Ciampa into a ladder. Briscoe then attacks Ciampa with a screwdriver. Ciampa then hits a suplex on Mark, sending him into the ladder for a near fall. Briscoe and Ciampa then both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Ciampa hitting a running knee using the tack-covered knee pad in the middle of the ring. Ciampa then sets up a chair structure, but Mark sends Ciampa into the chair structure back first. Briscoe then follows it up by hitting a J Driller off the apron through a barbed wire table on the outside, and then Briscoe hits a froggy bow off the top rope, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Mark Briscoe. Hats off to Mark Briscoe for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we hear from Tony Schiavone. Tony Schiavone's in the middle of the ring, talks about the Owen Hart Cup, but he's quickly interrupted by Prince Nana. Nana tells Tony Schiavone to leave the ring, and Nana brings out Swerve Strickland. Swerve makes his way out to the ring, but he's quickly attacked by Bandito. Prince Nana goes to attack Bandito with a chair, but Bandito stops Prince Nana. And because of this distraction, Swerve ends up attacking Bandito. Swerve sets up a chair. Bandito then hits a press slam on Swerve. Then it looks like Bandito was going to go for a 21 plex, but Swerve exits the ring and stares down Bandito. Now, we are getting this matchup between Swerve and Bandito this weekend at Double or Nothing in one of the matches for the Owen Hart Cup. Definitely looking forward to that matchup this weekend. Moving on from that, we hear from Willow Nightingale. She's backstage. Willow talks about her accolades in AEW. She also talks about being TBS champion. Willow then says that she suffered an injury against her match that she had with Red Velvet. And because of this injury, Willow says that she will not be in the Owen Hart Cup tournament. And not only that, Willow is going to relinquish the TBS title. Now, we'll talk more about this and how I feel about this at the end of today's episode. Moving on from that, we have Jon Moxley taking on Kyle O'Reilly in a Continental title eliminator matchup. Now, I thought this was a good match, pretty much a grudge match here between Moxley and O'Reilly. It was a back-and-forth matchup with Moxley keeping the pace of the match. Moxley and O'Reilly both exchange in the middle of the ring with Moxley landing a big boot, taking out O'Reilly. O'Reilly gets up, tries to get some offense in by hitting a jumping knee off the middle rope, taking out Moxley. Moxley then applies a superplex, but Moxley hits a super kick. O'Reilly then applies an ankle lock, but the hold is broken. Moxley then applies a bulldog choke on O'Reilly, but the hold is broken. Moxley then follows it up by hitting a cutter on O'Reilly for a near fall. O'Reilly then hits an exploder suplex followed by an ankle lock, but the bell sounds. The match ends due to time limit draw. O'Reilly then grabs the microphone and says Moxley barely survived, and says that in the rematch there will be no time limit. Now, this match was also scheduled for Double or Nothing for the Continental title. Definitely looking forward to that matchup between Moxley and O'Reilly. Moving on from that, we have a 6 women's tag team matchup. It is Athena teaming up with the Triangle of Madness to take on Thunder Rosa, Mina Shirakawa, and the Brawling Birds. This was actually a 8 women's tag team matchup. I thought the match itself was a good match. It was a back-and-forth matchup with Thunder Rosa, Shirakawa, and the Brawling Birds keeping the pace of the match. Alex Windsor and Sky Blue both exchange in the middle of the ring. Thunder Rosa gets sprayed with mist. This allowed Tekla to go for the cover, pins for the 3. And your winners of the match are Athena and the Triangle of Madness. Hats off to Athena and the Triangle of Madness for getting the win in this matchup. And moving on from that, we go into our main event of AEW Dynamite. It is Darby Allin defending the AEW World title against Speedball Mike Bailey. Both Bailey and Darby Allin come out to the ring, but they're both quickly interrupted by MJF. MJF comes out to the ring. He is on commentary during this matchup, but the matchup between Bailey and Darby was actually a good match. It was a back-and-forth matchup with Bailey quickly hitting a spin kick on Darby Allin. Bailey was trying to keep the pace of the match. Bailey hits a moonsault to the outside, taking out Darby Allin. Bailey follows it up by hitting a knee drop on Darby Allin. Bailey then hits another knee drop on Darby off the steel steps, but Darby gets up, hits a Scorpion Death Drop off the barricade. Darby then goes for a springboard coffin drop, but Bailey counters it. Bailey hits another spin kick, but Darby hits a coffin drop. Darby then goes for the cover. MJF then puts Bailey's leg on the ropes to break the pinfall. Kevin Knight comes down to the ring. He gets face-to-face with MJF. Bailey hits a headlock takeover for a near fall, followed by a roundhouse kick. Bailey hits another spin kick on Darby for a near fall, but Bailey hits a standing moonsault knee drop, but Darby gets up, hits a Scorpion Death Drop, followed by a Scorpion Deathlock, but the hold is broken. Darby quickly goes to the top rope, hits a coffin drop on Bailey, and Darby then applies another Scorpion Deathlock on Bailey in the middle of the ring. Bailey taps out, and your winner of the match is Darby Allin. After the match, Kevin Knight grabs a microphone and tells Bailey that to keep his head up and that he's proud of Bailey. Knight then gives props to Darby Allin. Knight says that now it's Darby's time to humble MJF. MJF then leaves through the crowd, taking his sweet time. After Kevin Knight and Speedball Mike Bailey leave the ring, Darby Allin is left all alone. MJF then runs through the crowd. He attacks Darby Allin. MJF then brings out hair clippers, but Darby grabs the hair clippers to cut MJF's hair, but MJF runs out of the ring and runs to the backstage area. Some interesting stuff there between Darby Allin and MJF. Couple of things I want to talk about with you guys, man, as far as AEW Dynamite's concerned before I get the hell up out of here. So I want to talk about the elephant in the room. And then one of the main vocal points of last night's show being Willow Nightingale. Now, if you guys don't know who Willow Nightingale is, She's a multi-time TBS champion, the first ever one half of the women's tag team champions when she was teaming up with Harley Cameron as the Babes of Wrath. She's had many accolades so far in AEW, and she's definitely one of those superstars in AEW that is a crowd favorite. I think she's done a phenomenal job in the women's division. Like I said, multi-time TBS champion. Also a winner of the Owen. Also the first ever one half of the women's tag team champion. So, I mean, Willow has definitely the accolades in AEW. No doubt about it. She's had great matches throughout her career. Even matches with Mercedes Moné. So, we had this backstage segment with Willow. And at first I was like, okay, well, what's going on here? Is she hyping up the Owen? What's going on? Because, I mean, they announced the tournament, but they really didn't go into detail with the Owen. And the Owen initially kicks off this Sunday at Double or Nothing. We have Swerve and Bandito. We also have Samoa Joe and Will Ospreay also in a matchup in the Owen Hart Cup tournament that takes place Sunday for Double or Nothing. So initially I thought, okay, well, Willow's going to talk about the women's Owen Hart Cup tournament and how excited she is and how fortunate she is to once again be a part of the Owen Hart Cup. But that was not the case. Willow announced that she had a matchup with Red Velvet, which I don't know if this was part of Ring of Honor or Ring of Honor Supercard that they just recently had, where Willow might have had a match with Red Velvet, but Willow had stated in that backstage segment that she had a match with Red Velvet, and in that matchup, she suffered an injury that is going to sideline Willow for quite some time, which ultimately took her out of the Owen, and also had Willow decide to relinquish the TBS title. Now, it's got a lot of people talking. You know, number one, how long ago was this matchup with Red Velvet? Did it happen at Supercard of Honor, or did it happen beforehand? And my thing is if that's the case, then why did we already announce Willow to be in the Owen Hart Cup tournament, knowing that she was injured? So there's that situation. But now it's got a lot of people talking, since Willow has relinquished the TBS championship and is also out of the Owen Hart Cup tournament, who is going to be her replacement? I have this crazy idea that her replacement in the Owen Hart Cup tournament is going to be the return of Mercedes Moné. Call me crazy. I just feel like that's the direction that we're going. Because in the tournament for the women, it was number one, very unpredictable. You also had two women in this Owen Hart Cup tournament that are actually not even employed with the company, in Hazuki and Suri. So, with that being said, there wasn't many names in this tournament, or two names that were not even a part of the company that are in this tournament. Moné has been rumored to be back within AEW imminently. She was supposed to be back within AEW, I believe, about a month ago, when AEW was in Canada. They were in Edmonton. I don't know if they were in Calgary or not. I think they were in Edmonton maybe about a month ago, and she actually was on the Independents having a match defending one of her titles on the Indies, I believe in Edmonton, where she ended up dropping that title to another superstar on the Indies. So a lot of people were speculating that Moné was going to show up then on AEW Dynamite and that her return was imminent. Now, we're also, the women's side of things for AEW took a seismic shift because Toni Storm has taken, or is going to be taking, some significant time off. We don't know what's going on with Toni Storm. Is she just taking some time off? I know there's rumors and speculation that she might be starting a family. We don't know. But what we do know is Toni Storm is rumored to be out of AEW until early 2027. So it's going to be quite some time before we see timeless Toni Storm step back in the confines of AEW. So they need another star-studded name, and that is, whether you like it or not, it's Mercedes Moné. And Moné needs to come back to AEW, whether you like her or not. And I feel like this is one of those ways where they can bring Moné back. They don't have to write her into a storyline to bring her back. She comes in. She's one of the mystery opponents in the Owen Hart Cup tournament. And if it is Moné, I can see Moné going to the finals. I can see Moné versus Athena in the finals for the Owen. There's some history there, obviously, between Athena and Moné. The last time we saw Athena, besides last night in AEW, I believe she was teaming up with Moné. So there is some history there between Athena and Mercedes Moné. There's also rumors that they might be pushing Suri in this Owen Hart Cup tournament. So we're going to see how it plays out. But my prediction is that Mercedes Moné is going to be the one that replaces Willow Nightingale in the Owen Hart Cup tournament. Now, the TBS title, I don't know how that's going to play out. I don't know if they're going to be doing a tournament or a makeshift tournament for the TBS title to crown a new champion. But right now, the TBS title is vacant as of right now, so we don't know who's going to fill those shoes and become the next TBS champion. So definitely looking forward to what's going to happen with that next. The other news, before I get into any more notes about the show, is there is a certain someone, a certain legend, that is coming into AEW and is supposed to make his AEW debut, more or less, this Sunday in the buy-in for Double or Nothing. And that individual is none other than the hardcore legend himself, Mick Foley. Now, before Dynamite went on the air last night, Tony Khan had put out a tweet stating that for the first time in many, many years, Cactus Jack is going to run wild once again on TNT and TBS. So, when this was announced, first and foremost, I was excited. I know Mick was already speculated to leave WWE because of certain situations going on behind the scenes and, you know, WWE's ties to Donald Trump and so on and so forth, and something that Mick Foley really wasn't too keen on, and was one of the main reasons why Mick Foley decided to not renew his Legends contract and opted to get out of the Legends contract deal with WWE and be technically a free agent. So ever since that was announced that Mick wasn't going to return back to WWE, I got a lot of people talking that maybe Mick Foley might step in the door of AEW, and that is exactly what has happened. Now, you know, initially when this was announced, I was excited. You know, Mick Foley is an absolute legend, and Mick Foley, in my honest opinion, Mick Foley should be able to do whatever the hell he wants in professional wrestling. The guy has put his body through hell, and because of that has had a Hall of Fame career because of doing so. There'll never be another Mick Foley ever again. So when this was announced by Tony Khan, I was excited. The fact that he was going to be a part of the buy-in this Sunday, it has more meaning to the show. A lot of people obviously are going to be excited to see the likes of Mick Foley in the confines of AEW. But it also had a lot of other people talking with as far as Mick Foley is concerned. There's been rumors and speculation that Mick Foley wants another match, or at least a couple matches. Mick Foley's trying to get back into probably the best shape of his career, best shape of his life, and has mentioned the fact that he would like to have one more match. I think he recently did a GCW event. I think Sandman was wrestling the Invisible Man on GCW, where Mick Foley got involved in that matchup. But it's got a lot of people talking, and Mick has stated that he would like to have one more match. Some people are saying that this Mick Foley showing up at Double or Nothing is a one-off, and they're entitled to their opinion. I don't believe this is a one-off for Mick Foley. I think this is something that Tony Khan wants to work with Mick Foley. Mick Foley obviously wants to work with AEW. And I feel like Mick Foley might have more of a predominant role in AEW than what we're going to see on Sunday. Me personally, if I had to pick a role for Mick Foley, I know some people are going to be against it because it's like, man, we've seen him do this in WWE. I would love to see Mick Foley be an on-air GM for AEW or a commissioner for AEW. An on-air GM for AEW would, and I think, honestly, intensify the show. If Mick Foley's at the realm and he's taking, I guess, orders, if you will, from Tony Khan, but this is coming from Mick Foley, and having him as an on-air presence on Dynamite or Collision or either the PLEs or pay-per-views, I think intensifies AEW. It's something different. It's something new. It's something I really think AEW, if they do it correctly, they can really capitalize of having the likes of Mick Foley on Dynamite. Now, we don't need to see Mick Foley every single week on Dynamite. I'm not saying that. But if you look at what Raw's doing, having Adam Pearce, you look at SmackDown having Nick Aldis, you know, you technically have NXT with Shawn Michaels, but at one time they even had their own GM at one time, which was The Rock's daughter. I don't think it hurts a company to have an on-air GM or an on-air commissioner. I really don't. I think Mick Foley would fit that role perfectly. It would have more of an edgier feel having Mick there. I would love to see an interaction between Mick Foley and Darby Allin, Mick Foley and Jon Moxley. I know some people are even hoping for a match between Mick Foley and Jon Moxley, which is absolutely insane, but I don't feel as if bringing in Mick Foley is going to be a one-off for AEW. I feel like he's going to have some kind of predominant role or some kind of role within AEW. He can be on commentary. He can be a manager. He can be an on-air talent as far as being a commissioner or a general manager for AEW. I think this doesn't hurt AEW at all. And I think the people that are like, oh man, we'll be seeing Mick do this in WWE. Yeah, many, many moons ago. It's a whole different ballgame now with AEW, number one. And number two, I feel like with how AEW presents its shows, this falls right into Mick Foley's wheelhouse. I mean, look what happened with Ciampa and Mark Briscoe. They beat the hell out of each other last night. Look at the matches that Jon Moxley has had in recent years in AEW. I mean, they're absolutely brutal. I mean, these matches and the way AEW conducts business, as far as what they do inside the ring, falls right into Mick Foley's wheelhouse. So I think Mick, being a general manager or a commissioner for AEW, I think is going to intensify the shows, because Mick Foley is still a crowd favorite. Mick Foley is still immensely over with all pro wrestling fans across the board, whether it's WWE or AEW or New Japan. Mick Foley still has a name. And I can only imagine having the announcement that Mick Foley's going to be the new commissioner or general manager of AEW. It's going to get people talking. We're talking about a guy that's been with WWE for many, many years. Many years. And to me, just from the tweet that Tony Khan put out, I just feel like they want to do more with Cactus Jack or Mick Foley than just having him a part of the Double or Nothing buy-in. So I'm all for this. If they want to put him in a general manager or commissioner role, I don't see how it hurts AEW at all, for what we've been getting now for the past 2-3 years with AEW as far as creative is concerned. Adding Mick Foley to the mix and having him as a commissioner or general manager, it shakes shit up a lot for AEW. Absolutely. As far as Dynamite last night, was it a bad show? No. I mean, was it entertaining? No. Was it boring at times? Absolutely. I think Willow shocked a lot of people with the announcement that she had that she's relinquishing the TBS title and that she's no longer going to be a part of the Owen Hart Cup tournament. I think that shocked a lot of people. Obviously the Mick Foley news that came out prior to AEW going on the air, that he will be at Double or Nothing for the buy-in and doing interviews and talking about Double or Nothing with Renee. I think it's great. And hopefully they do use Mick Foley more than just for Double or Nothing at the buy-in. And I'm excited for the matches going to Double or Nothing. I really am. I think Double or Nothing is one of AEW's marquee, events. It's one of their big events that they have every year, and usually 9 times out of 10, they usually have a surprise or a return or something like that sparks a lot of interest within AEW, and I think they need it. I'm looking forward to the Stadium Stampede match. I'm looking forward to Moxley versus O'Reilly, Takeshita versus Okada, Darby Allin versus MJF. Definitely looking forward to that. Kenny Omega's in the Stampede match, as well as Jack Perry. We had the AEW tag team titles on line, FTR versus Copeland and Cage, I believe, as well. It's a stacked card, man. It really is a stacked card, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. And hopefully, AEW can come out with a grand slam coming out of Double or Nothing, because they really need it. They really need it. And again, bro, I think going in even All In, even though we're a little, a couple months, before we get to All In, I think All In this year is going to be very, very interesting going into All In. So, we got some free agents coming up with New Day and Motor City Machine Guns that might be on the board as far as joining AEW. So I'm definitely looking forward to that as well. But like I said, last night wasn't terrible. I mean, there was parts of it that were kind of boring, but we're trying to, close up storylines, if you want to call it that, going into AEW's Double or Nothing. So I'm definitely looking forward to Double or Nothing on Sunday. I will have a review for you guys for that Double or Nothing pay-per-view as well, man. But again, with that being said, this is my review of AEW's Dynamite. I hope you guys are out there staying safe, be careful, and remember, stay classic. Peace.